Hello everyone, welcome to this session on citing sources in essays from the Academic Writing Service. So my name's Daniel and I'm an academic writing developer with the AWS. So before we begin the session, here are our contact details. So if you want to book a one-to-one based around planning or writing your assignment, you can use the booking form on LibGuides. Or you could email us at the learningservices.cuc email account. We also have academic writing resources using that link there, and there are also resources around academic integrity and referencing as well. Okay, so the aims of today's session are to present ways to cite sources in writing and then interrogate their meaning and how they can be interpreted. Also, one of the aims is to raise awareness of the possible role reporting verbs have in showing a writer's position on a topic. So we're going to split the session into two parts. This is part one, where we'll look at citing sources in essays, and part two will focus on using reporting verbs in your writing. Right, so let's move on to the first part. So to start with, we've got a couple of questions just to gauge your knowledge of the topic. So you can pause the video here and answer the question. The feedback will be given in a moment. So first one, what are the three main ways sources can be incorporated into your written work? So pause here, have a think. The answer will be revealed in a moment. So here's the answer. First is quotation, second is paraphrase, and third is summary. Okay, so what is the main difference between them? Quotation, paraphrase, and summary. Okay, pause the video here and try and answer this question. So the answer is that quotations are the exact wording from a source, whereas paraphrases and summaries involve rephrasing and rewording the source material so you can integrate it into your writing. So in the case of a summary, the original is condensed and shortened considerably. So we're talking about maybe a couple of paragraphs into a couple of sentences or clauses, or even a chapter into, or a whole paper into something that's a sentence in length. So last questions. So what is a citation and why are they important in academic writing? So again, pause the video here, try and answer these. We'll discuss them in a second. Okay, the answer is that a citation is the in-text acknowledgement of the author of the work you are using to define a key term, explain something, and so on. So when we say in text, we mean in your actual written response, in the essay, in the report, and so on. So why are they important? Well, they add weight to the veracity of information that you assign to them. So if you have a definition that you assign to a cited author, it adds academic strength to it, you know, that your reader will think that definition is from a good source and thus can be believed and accepted. Okay, so let's look at citing sources in essays. So we'll look at this through activities, and here's the first one. So on the following slide, there is a paragraph from a social sciences essay, so final year student, and I'd like you to read this and answer these questions. How many different sources has the writer cited in this paragraph? How has the writer mainly cited the sources in the writing? And this is a little trickier, but what effect does this have on your interpretation of the information in each sentence? So the way they've cited it, what effect does this have on the way you interpret that information? So here's the paragraph. Pause the video here, read through. You can rewind if you want to get the questions down again. So, from reading the paragraph, you can see that the writer has cited 4 different sources in their paragraph. And the way they've cited them is at the end of each sentence. So, in brackets at the end of each sentence. And so, the effect this potentially has had on your interpretation of that information is that it gives the effect that it's very factual, because it's a statement with a citation at the end. It's also quite descriptive as well, and well, this is because they're defining key terms. So we'll have a little look at this in a bit more detail. So as you can see there in red, we've got the sources that are cited at the end of the paragraph, and the words in blue and in bold are the terms being used, being defined. So as you can see, third way is, so that's a definition of it. Then it is described. So again, developing that definition, it's still quite descriptive. And then it claims, again, they're being descriptive. Big society is, ideas are, it theoretically promotes. David Cameron's responses is. So this is statements that are seemingly factual, with citations at the end of the sentence. So the following is a paragraph from a PGC essay. Okay, so I'd like you to have a read through this and answer these questions. How many different sources has the writer cited and used to write this paragraph? How has the writer cited them? And again, what effect does this have on your interpretation? So pause the video here, have a read through and answer those 3 questions. So the feedback. Well, how many different sources has the writer used to write this paragraph? Well, only 3, 1 less than the previous one. How has the writer cited the sources in each sentence? So we've got a combination here of at the end of the sentence, like the previous example, and also at the start of sentences and clauses as well. So what effect could this have on your interpretation of the information? So the way they have cited the sources indicates that they're presenting it from the position of the author. So the author is responsible for the ideas directly. And the effect that this can have is that it creates a dialogue between those authors, between the theorists and also the DPS. So this author said this, and then this author said this. So it creates this interaction between sources. Rather than just stating facts, it's a sort of a dialogue between them. And let's have a look. So as you can see in green, we've got although the school's behaviour policy states, and we've got the citation at the end there, and then we've got the theorist Skinner. Although Skinner claimed something, Cantor, a different author, Cantor's assertive discipline aligns with. So they're comparing the 2 theorists there, and then they take Cantor to and they run with that a little bit, and they start the following sentence with Cantor acknowledges that when pupils, despite positive reinforcement, choose not to follow the rules, there must be consequences. And then again, Cantor's discipline hierarchy seems to align with the increase in severity. So they're comparing 2 different theorists there in their writing. So in subject areas such as education, knowledge is constructed in a way that is informed by the values of those constructing it. So yours as a person, as a teacher, as a student, and also the researchers such as Cantor, Skinner, and so on, and the theorists' values too. And it's also constructed that is in relation to the others in the subject area. So whether that is similar or different, whether there is agreement or disagreement, partial disagreement, and so on. There are many varieties. So the way that you cite your sources in your PGCE writing is influenced by this approach to knowledge. And you can show the relationship between ideas and findings or concepts of others and your own attitude towards them in the citational style that you use. So let's have a comparison here. We've got the two ways of citing sources from the two examples. So the first one, big society is the political ideology developed in the 21st century. Cantor, 2010, acknowledges that when pupils, despite positive reinforcement, choose not to follow the rules, there must be consequences. So this first one, with the citation at the end of the sentence, this is called a non-integral citation, and its use is to focus on the information provided, not the author of the information. So by doing this, it gives the appearance of fact rather than a claim by the author. So this can be used in certain sections of your writing to convey a message about the information, your feeling about that information, that it is closer to a fact than to a claim. The other example is an integral citation. So it's integrated into the sentence, into the author's writing. So the focus here is on the author as the source of the information. The information is still important, but the author is important too. And this, using this style, gives the appearance of a claim that is then open to debate. So you can bring in other authors to dispute this or to support it. So the different reporting verbs that are used carry different meanings and then thus can be interpreted by your reader in different ways. So, why might you try to use different citation styles in your writing? Well, academic writing is not objective. You want to try and write in as objective a way as possible, but it's not objective. And it's not free from your stance, your position, your attitude, okay? So by reporting on a source in a way that shows your attitudes towards the information contained, whether that's a fact or a claim, or the attitude of that author, you are making a rhetorical appeal to your readers, and you're trying to persuade them of your argument. So whether you feel that you agree with a certain author or disagree with them, you can show this in the way that you cite a source. And this accumulates in your writing and can have a persuasive effect on your reader. But this is just one way to do it. There are other ways, but today's focus is on citing sources. So it's important to note that this is about how the reader can infer this attitude or position. So some may infer it in the way you intended, others may miss those cues. But that you are intending to do that is important. Okay, so that's the end of part one. We'll pick up with this in the next part, but we'll focus more on the reporting verbs and how you can show your stance using them. Okay, thank you.